Hello everyone, this is Ashley Tucker. Thank you for joining me today. For today's card, I started with a piece of Canson watercolor paper taped down to a board. I knew that I wanted to eventually cut this piece down into a circle, so in order to know where I needed to work, I used a circle die and a pencil to trace a circle, and I'm going to keep all of my blending inside of that area. I'm going to be creating a winter scene on this panel of paper, and I really wanted some hills to be in the background, so I used my scissors and my masking paper to cut some hilly shapes, and I added that onto the panel. Next, I used a few different colors of Distress Oxide ink to blend in a sky. I used the colors Tumbled Glass, Faded Jeans, and Black Soot. I've been making a lot of winter nighttime scenes lately. It's something that I've been really enjoying making. So this card is a little bit similar to some of the cards that I've made recently. It's got the hills that I made on the penguin card, and I've been using these Distress Oxide inks to make skies a lot recently, but I definitely added some twists on this one. Once the sky was finished, I removed the first mask and then I started shading that hill. For the shading on my snowy hills, I used two of the colors that I used on the sky. I used the Tumbled Glass and the Faded Jeans. And I tried to keep a very light hand with that blending. I even tapped off some of the ink onto the masking paper before going onto my actual panel. Once the shading was done on the first hill, I removed the mask for the second hill, and then I shaded that one as well. Now, like I said, I did try to keep a light hand with the blending, but I did go a little bit darker with the shading on these hills than I did in my last card that featured snowy hills, and that's because I wanted the scene to look a little bit more like it was in the middle of night, so you're going to have some deeper shadows. So once that background was all done, I took a large circle die and I ran it through my Big Shot, and then I took the circle and I adhered it onto a piece of Canson watercolor paper. I'm going to be turning this circle into a shaker, so I have a piece of doubled up foam tape and I took the backing off of both sides of it so that I could easily work it around that circle shape. Next, I filled up my shaker area with these large pieces of clear glitter, and I just got this container of glitter from Walmart. I have this piece of acetate, which I cut out with the same circle die that I cut that background out with, and I placed that over the top to close up my shaker area. I have a piece of white cardstock that I used my scissors to cut into a hill shape, and I'm going to shade that just like I did the hills that are inside my shaker. I took my Gina K Connect glue and I added some glue to the back of that hill, and I'm going to glue that right onto the front of my shaker area. Once I had it placed right where I wanted it, I took some scissors and I trimmed down the excess paper. Next, I have a ring that I created using two different circle dies. One of the circle dies was a little bit larger than my shaker area, and the other one a little bit smaller. And I used my Gina K Connect glue to adhere that right on top of my shaker, and that hides the foam tape. And that ring is made out of In the Navy cardstock by Gina K. Next, I stamped this cute little snowman from the Mama Elephant stamp set, Little Snowman Agenda. I colored this little guy in with my Copic markers, and I did set my marker caps up in the corner there so that you can see what colors I used. I've been creating a lot of cards lately with Mama Elephant stamp sets, and that's just because I really loved their release last month and I bought a lot of it, so that's why I've been using a lot of their stamp sets. It might be a little bit difficult to tell this from the video, but this snowman is really tiny, so I didn't have to do very difficult coloring. I kept it pretty simple. I think the hardest part about this coloring was the scarf, because I decided to do stripes, and that scarf is really small, and the nibs on the Copic markers are a lot bigger, so it was very hard to do those lines without messing it up, but I managed. Once the snowman was all colored in, I cut it out with some scissors, and then I added it onto my shaker area with Gina K Connect glue, and I placed it right on top of that hill that's in the front so that he looks like he's just sitting there in my scene. And I did forget to color in his nose, so I quickly did that. And then I grabbed a light blue marker and I added some shading underneath him so that it looks more like he's in that scene. I decided that I didn't want my shaker to be on the white Canson watercolor paper, so I cut it out and I'm going to use some patterned paper for my background. I took this piece of Lawn Fawn patterned paper, which was perfect because I wanted my card to be a 6x6 card, and this paper is 6x6, so it fits perfectly on my card base. So I glued that down, and then I took my shaker and I used my ATG gun to adhere that onto my card base, and I put that right in the center. For the sentiment on my card, I decided to pull out a Lawn Fawn stamp set. This stamp says Merry Christmas, and it comes from the Holiday Helpers stamp set by Lawn Fawn. I stamped that with Versamark ink onto some Gina K Cherry Red cardstock, and then I embossed it with a white embossing powder. I glued that sentiment onto my shaker, and I decided to have it hang off the side just a little bit. So I adhered that with my Gina K Connect glue, and then for the little bit that's hanging off the side, I slid a piece of foam tape under there so that it's nice and sturdy. For the finishing touches on this card, I first went over the sentiment with my Wink of Stella glitter brush, and then I added a few sequins around that sentiment on the acetate. These sequins come from the Birthday Cake sequins by Simon Says Stamp. Once I finished adding those 3 sequins, this card was all done. Here's a closer look at the finished card, and you can see all of those sequins moving around inside the shaker. I think it really kind of makes it look like a snow globe. Thank you for watching today. I hope you really enjoyed this card design. All of the supplies that I used today can be found in the description down below. If you enjoyed watching and you have not subscribed to my channel yet, I'd encourage you to hit that subscribe button so that you can see all of my future videos. I'm going to be back with a new video on Monday. Again, thank you for watching. I appreciate all of you, and I hope you have a good weekend.